Welcome to the Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up today, Seattle is tops for crime in the U.S. again, and we got a weird response to our article about that Rocky Horror drag event. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
There are no words to say when there are dead kids. There are just no words. Because there are dead children. And especially when it was a preventable tragedy, there are no words. 2 children are dead. More than a dozen were injured in the shooting in Minneapolis this morning at the Catholic school. I have a message for my Catholic friends and for my Christian friends, for that matter. You need to do what the Jews do when it comes to security. You really need to. It is long past time. How many church shootings have there been? How many attacks on Christians and Catholics have there been? And we're in an environment where you guys are just as big targets as we are. You need to make your churches hard targets. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, because I know churches work differently than synagogues. Synagogues, we just want the Jews there. Right? That's what we want, and we want to make sure we know everybody who goes there, and we don't want anybody else there. Churches are trying to say, hey, come to us. Churches are saying, hey, we proselytize. Churches are saying, we want the homeless. I'm sorry, guys. It's not that you can't do that. You have to figure out a way to do it safely, including for your schools. You have to be hard targets. You have to have the metal detectors. You have to have the security guards. Just saying, well, we're a whole bunch of Christians with guns, ain't going to do it. It ain't going to do it. You have to harden those targets. You have to make sure you guys are hard targets. I talk about it all the time, what we do at my synagogue, because I take this stuff so seriously, and I'm sorry. Because when you do that, you kind of feel, I don't know what the right word is. It's not a loss of innocence. That's not what it is. But it's are we less welcoming now? No, you're telling everybody in your institution, we value you so much, we're going to spend tens of thousands of dollars on this. And I know it's a huge budget hit. Believe me, I know. We apply for grants all the time. We apply for Homeland Security grants. I know. We ask for donation. I know. You want the money going to the homeless, and you want the money going to feed people, and you want the money going to the poor. I get it. Believe me, I get it. But it's long past time. You have to turn your schools, you have to turn everything you love into a fortress. Because if you love something, you want to protect it. Unfortunately, in our society, what are we busy protecting? Our movie stars, our politicians. If you love something, you need to protect it. And the greatest tragedy here is the murder of Christian children. Their lives were cut short. Their families were shattered forever. And that is where our attention belongs. And yet, even when people were talking about uniting in prayer, this simple act came under fire, which is from the mayor of the city. This is the craziest thing to me, how the left has tried to spin this terrible tragedy. There is no spinning this for the left. There isn't. Because this was avoidable, and their doubling down on crazy made it so much worse. Here's Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey. Here's what he said.
Don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church.
So are you trying to say their prayers didn't matter? Their prayers didn't count? You want me to disprove this right now? And I haven't had a talk with the man upstairs. But you want me to disprove this right now? There was a gunman with weapons with tons of bullets, and he could have killed everybody in that room. Some kids' prayers were answered, and I know that's going to sound callous of me to say when there's dead children who didn't deserve any of this. But some prayers were answered, and unfortunately some were not. That's the only way you can wrap your head around something like that. But saying, oh, they were praying and their prayer did no good. They deserve to. That's basically what he's saying. How callous, how awful, how wrong. All they know how to do is demonize. You have dead Christians and you're demonizing kids for praying. What the hell is wrong with you? I may not be Christian, but when something like this happens, I don't go, oh, that's what happens when you add on the New Testament. What the hell is wrong with you? These kids were praying in school, first day of school, probably wearing their best outfits, excited about seeing their friends again, and they're dead, and you're demonizing them for praying? That's just wrong. That's just wrong. Here's something else. Imagine telling Christians not to gather and pray for the victims of evil. So, you heard this. When Jews experience tragedy, they come together to pray for one another. No one mocks them for it. That instinct to pray, to turn to faith in a moment of despair, is not only natural, it's necessary. Imagine if the mayor had gone after those who shoot Christians and kids. That's the normal thing you should be doing. Instead, he went after Christians praying for their community. That's what he did. That's the mayor of Minneapolis. When the candles burn down and the vigils are over, parents are left with another haunting question. How did this happen? Because the Westman family looked like a normal family. If you've seen pictures of the shooter's family, they look like a normal family. They went to this school. They went to this church. Photos of their son before 2020 show him as just another kid. Sometimes flamboyant in style, sure, but still a boy. And then you find out his mother, a Catholic woman who worked at the church, actually filed court papers to help him change his name to Robin and adopt she/her pronouns at the age of 17. That's not something most parents can even wrap their heads around. How does a Catholic mom end up helping her son become transgender and years later a school shooter? That's the fear sitting in the back of a lot of parents' minds right now. When you look at those pictures and you go, how does this happen in a seemingly normal family? Could it happen in my family? How does something like this happen in a religious family, a traditional family? And mind you, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but that's what it looks like when you're looking at this family, and that fills every single family member, every single parent with horror and dread. This is the fear that's sitting in the back of the mind of a lot of parents' minds right now. And it connects directly to what Abigail Schreier was talking about at the Northwest Sanity Forum, which we went to last week, which was hosted by our friends over at Future 42. She explained how this starts, not with some big decision, but with a form. A mental health screening form from school or from a pediatrician. On paper, it looks harmless. Questions about sadness, anger, self-harm, gender identity. But parents never see the results. Those answers are locked away between the child and the school. I've seen these forms because I went to my doctor for my annual physical, and I was given all these forms to fill out. You know, they normally say, oh, are you sleeping well? You have any medical issues? You taking any new medication? This one had all these mental health questions on there. And my physician barely even talked about it. He said, do you have any depression? Are you drinking too much? That's how he asked. Do you think a form diagnoses anybody? No. So why the forms? These forms are not legally required. You can skip them. The law says schools must get active or passive consent from guardians and parents before a student participates. But in practice, most parents don't even know what they're agreeing to. Kids fill them out at school, surrounded by their peers, hardly the setting for an honest cry for help. As Abigail Schreier pointed out, kids who are starving themselves or cutting it don't announce it on a bubble sheet. Kids who are being abused don't write it down when they know that the counselor will read it. What, you think my doctor was going to diagnose me from that form? What about somebody who doesn't know they have a problem? Let's get a little personal here. I didn't know I was suffering from PTSD a few years ago. Had no idea until I was talking with some buddies in the security world who were discussing how they were suffering from PTSD, what the signs were, and in my mind I'm going, check, 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 check. And I had to go get help for it. Imagine if instead of that somebody goes, that's normal behavior, Ari. Let's double down on that. Let's have you continue be angry at the people you care most about in the world. Let's embrace it. In fact, let's jack you up more. More rage. Let's do that. Have you tried drinking? Maybe we should encourage this. Maybe we should make you more aggressive. Let's send you some aggression classes. What can we do to make you more aggressive? Well, that's exactly what we're doing, just we're doing it a different way. So what are these forums really for? They become data points, sometimes breached, sometimes shared for schools and state agencies. They justify funding, just like the hate crimes hotline nonsense. Nobody's answering at the other end of that. They're just recording it, so they could justify later we need more funding against hate crimes, because hate crimes are out of control here in Washington. Here, what they're saying is, oh, there's more depression than ever before in the kids. Look at the forms. The forms say it. And when the school asks your child to confide privately, that secrecy wedges itself between parent and child. It's no longer your family's conversation. It's your kids and an institution. That's why I told my own kids, if they hand you one of those forms, skip it. If they press, tell them to call me. Because let's be honest, there is always that fear. What if refusal makes the school think we're hiding abuse? What if they call CPS? What if they start talking to my kid behind my back in a state with trans sanctuary laws? Senate Bill 5599. What if they help transition my child without me ever knowing it? Think about how scary that is. When I was a youth director of the youth organization, we used to have a thing at the end of the weekend where the kids would sit around at night with candles. No, we were not a cult, but they would share. And we stopped doing it. Because unfortunately what happened is one kid would share something and then another kid decide to top it. And they start exaggerating stories. Where one time this kid said something, I'm not going to repeat what they said, but my wife walked over to the kid and said, is that really happening? Or are you making it up? Because we need to contact some people if that's really happening. That's what kids do. One-upmanship, like to have something over their friends or show how they're more whatever it is. Unfortunately, we experienced that too many times. And we also experienced, when we're running this youth organization, we think we can save everybody. I had somebody who used to be one of my supervisors at this organization say, Ari, we're not social workers. If the kid needs a social worker, send them to a social worker. If they need a therapist, send them to a therapist. If they need a doctor, send them. If they need a shrink, send them. But also talk to their parents. Now, of course, there are situations where a kid can't go to the parents because the parents are abusing them or the parents aren't there or something of that nature. But more often than not, you start going, I know what's best for this kid. I can fix this kid. I can save this kid. That's not your job. That's the parent's job, or that's the doctor's job, or that's the shrink's job, or that's somebody else's job. But unfortunately, we have radical activists who think it's their job. By the time Mary Westman may have realized what was happening, maybe the therapist had already hit her with the awful line, would you rather have a living daughter or a dead son? We've all heard it. Some parents are supportive from the start. Others get convinced by that kind of emotional blackmail. Either way, the path starts with a form or a guidance counselor visit or a so-called support program you thought was harmless. And as parents, we often ask ourselves, when we see a kid go down a road, what was the moment that started it? What could I have fixed? What could I have changed? And we drive ourselves bonkers about that when it's something we don't like. Tim Walz and Democrats made this about guns. Okay, fine. Let's talk about gun access. Why is someone who openly identifies as transgender approved for a gun license? Was he on meds or hormone therapy when he applied for the license? Did he lie on the form? Is transgenderism not considered a mental illness and would preclude somebody from buying a gun? We deserve to know. Now, replace the word trans or transgender with drugs or with alcohol in all the questions I just asked, or any mental health medication of any kind. You know what your answers would be to that, so why do we make exceptions for the trans rule? If a girl is cutting herself, do you say, hey, why don't you do a squiggly shape on your arm? Hey, let me get you a better knife for that. You say, no, this kid needs help. Something is going on here. But when a kid wants to cut off their sexual organs, you say, you're a hero. You need to be celebrated. 2 weeks after a transgender shot up a Christian school in Tennessee in 2023, the head of Minnesota's Catholic schools begged Tim Walz for help. Our schools are under attack, he wrote. Walz did nothing, but that month Walz signed a bill making Minnesota a trans refuge. Charlie Kirk wrote, if you are crazy enough to want hormonally and surgically change your sex, you have a mental disorder and you are too crazy to own a firearm. And this brings me to a bigger problem, the erasure of gender identity disorder from the DSM, that's the Gray's Anatomy of the Mind. Pretending gender identity disorder wasn't a mental illness was one of the most dangerous and consequential mistakes of the last decade. At one point, it was recognized as what it is, a mental health condition. That matters, because when it was a diagnosis, there was at least a framework for treatment. But now that it's been rebranded as gender dysphoria, the entire medical and legal system treats it not as a disorder to address, but as an identity to affirm. And that shift has consequences. Look at the drug addicts on the street of Seattle. Oh, we want them to live a normal lifestyle as a drug addict. Not, we want to get you help. Oh, they are just our unsheltered neighbors, not we want to get them help and solve the problem. This change affects custody battles, whether a parent loses their child for refusing to affirm. It affects whether the state can step in and remove kids from their homes. It affects gun licenses and whether someone qualifies as stable enough for ownership. It affects employment practices and hiring decisions. And most importantly, it affects whether doctors and therapists even attempt to treat it as a mental illness that deserves care and healing. This is something that people just don't want to discuss. If gender identity disorder was restored to the DSM, we could recenter the conversation on treatment rather than affirmation. We could pursue therapy that helps kids find stability instead of pushing them down a medical path with permanent consequences. We could protect parents who say no to hormones instead of branding them as abusers. We could finally begin addressing this terrible condition the way we address any other mental illness, with actual compassion, with science, and with the goal of making people whole again. We could do this. Now, parents, these forms are not legally required. You can refuse them. When the doctor asks you to leave the exam room, you can say no. You have every right to ask a therapist what they would or wouldn't report to you about your child, including whether they consider medical transition a form of self-harm. Last year, they recommended for one of our kids that they go to a homework room to work on their skills. We found out it was just someplace they want to send kids to therapists. And when we started asking them questions, we found out that what this was really about was therapy. And our kid didn't need therapy. They needed help with their homework. But oh, they must be suffering something up here. Something must be wrong. We need to talk about their feelings. Maybe they're in the wrong body. Because when we asked the people at the homework center, well, how do you feel about gender transitioning care, gender affirmation care? Well, and we said, oh, to hell with this. Once you let those secrets sit between you and between your child and a stranger, the law is no longer on your side. It's on theirs. Politicians who say 13-year-olds can make their own medical decisions, the ones who say schools don't have to tell you if your child has been assaulted, they assume every home is an abusive home. It's Schrodinger's domestic abuse. You're guilty until proven innocent. Parents, don't surrender this ground. Don't let a form or a policy decide the future of your child. Your kids don't belong to the state, and you don't need to apologize for standing between your kids and actual harm. And what's crazy is our society has made it that too many parents go, I don't want to be labeled that way. I'm worried what people might say about me. No, your kid is the most important thing. This tragedy was preventable. People with mental health disorders should not own firearms. And I know the Second Amendment people are about to get mad at me. But guess what? You want to discuss actual red flag laws? This kid was posting videos of all this stuff, talking about death to the Jews and death to Donald Trump. All this stuff was everywhere. How'd your red flag laws work out? The biggest red flag is what society, what these schools, what these therapists, what these activists are doing to your children. And you may not even know it's going on. You may not even realize it's happening. You need to be involved with your kids. You need to know what's going on in school. And you tell your kids if you are given these forms. It's the first week of school for a lot of them. Next week's the first week of school for a lot more. If you are handed these forms, say no, because here's something else, my friends. I've seen how detailed these forms are. They give them ideas. Oh, cutting yourself? People do that? Imagine a middle schooler filling that out who didn't know. You know the education you got on the school bus? Now imagine you're getting it from some form which looks official. Now imagine the kid is getting it from some form that looks official. That's terrifying. This is another form of indoctrination. And parents, you have to stop it. Because you don't want to look back on one of these moments and go, that was the moment I lost my kid. Because every time I go to a KVI event, somebody comes up to me and says, Ari, I lost my kid. What do I do? Whether it was politics or trans or homelessness or drugs or alcohol, whatever the case may be. And I'm sure if I asked those parents what was that moment, they could trace it back to a certain moment. Don't let this radicalism be the moment that took your kid away from you. You want to weigh in on this? You want to tell me your stories about what happened to your kids? You want to tell us your firsthand experiences? You give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757 because I'm sure I'm only scratching the surface right now, especially in our crazy state of Washington. When we come back, my friends, speaking of our crazy state of Washington, crime is out of control in Seattle. And once again, Seattle lands on the tops of the list of most crime in the country. That plus your calls and texts, you're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Once again, Seattle is at the tops, my friends. Seattle has cemented its reputation as one of America's most dangerous big cities, with one of the highest property crime rates in the U.S. This is on the heels of the revelation that Washington State, as a whole, is going from bad to worse, even as the rest of the country turns the corner on violent crime. Security.org. Now, as I say all the time, we take these studies with a grain of salt, but Security.org, I looked up what they base it on. They base it on crime reports. They're not doing, rankings based on the weather, like Wallet Hub, or how much people are spending. This is just based on crime reports. Their 2024 rankings place Seattle third highest property crime among America's 30 largest cities. The city recorded a property crime rate of 5,007.6 per 100,000 residents, which is nearly 185% higher than the national average of 1,760 per 100,000. For at least 2 years running, Seattle has also topped the nation for burglary rates, underscoring how widespread break-ins and theft remain in the city. Tell me again how Bruce Harrell is improving crime. What, because he got graffiti off one tunnel? By the way, Mike, I went to the tunnel. I went to the tunnel yesterday that Bruce Harrell was bragging about on his way home. And you know what's funny to me? There was nothing on the tunnel, so I was wrong. It's going to take more than 1 day for them to come back. It'll take 2 or 3 days. As soon as you come out of... Wait, before getting to the tunnel, the amount of encampments and homeless people I saw was insane. And then coming out of the tunnel, you can see the homeless people up everywhere. So I said, it's only a matter of time until they mess this up. You didn't solve the real problem. You bailed water out of the sinking ship, but you didn't plug the hole in the bottom of the boat. Seattle recorded 52 homicides in 2024. Equal rate of 6.8 per 100,000 people. That puts the city above the national average, which is 5 per 100,000 people, but far from the nation's most violent major cities. CrimeGrade.com gives Seattle a D- safety grade, placing it in the 8th percentile nationwide. Remember when you're a kid and they have the height charts? Oh, I'm in the 90th percent, yay! And then you find out you're Jewish and that levels off when you go to high school. Oh, that was depressing. Safer than just 8% of U.S. cities. That statistic reflects how property crime weighs heavily on the city's crime profile. Seattle's challenges are part of a broader statewide trend. Earlier this month, Washington was ranked 50th in the nation for safety, the lowest score of any state, according to the Wallet Hub survey I mentioned before. The ranking coincided with newly released FBI data showing Washington moving in the opposite direction as much of the country. While the nation's national murder rate dropped, Washington soared. And while violent crime is going down, here it rose. So yeah, we're really on a great path. By the way, can we give the award for best gun salesman to Bob Ferguson? Because, as always, when you pass stricter gun laws, people go buy guns. Well, now, according to My Northwest, concealed carry permits have been on the rise in Washington. On the rise. Probably, did you hear that all of a sudden? Wait a second, they're going to be banning more guns and that stuff's going to be going into effect? Oh, and also the crime rates are going through the roof? Oh, and also Bob Ferguson is doubling down on his anti-police rhetoric and narrative, even though he's claiming he's all about public safety? Yeah, so people aren't buying when the left goes, oh, look, we've got it controlled, we've got it safe. They go, we want the National Guard here because it's safer. You know what I love, Mike? I don't know if you've been seeing this on TV. Have you seen the man on the street interviews they've been doing with people in Washington, D.C.? So they always, they're great. They're absolutely great. So they walk up to somebody and they assume, they're black. They're going to agree with the Democrats' platform, right? It's actually moving the media. So the African-American person they're interviewing goes, I think it's great. Look how much nicer it is around here. I don't have crime anymore. The people being interviewed on the street are actually moving the mainstream media to a place where they recognize what's actually going on around here. Yeah, it's kind of fun to watch in real time, but unfortunately Seattle and Washington aren't waking up. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from our friend Transit Joe. Transit Joe, what's up, man?
What's up, man? Once again, anti-Semitism has struck America, and I think you know where I'm going with this. And it's one PTSD sufferer to another. I'm sorry about today because I know it must be tough for you, Harry.
Oh, well, don't worry about me. That was something from something else a long, long time ago. And thank God I went and treated it. I didn't go, hey, you know what? Let's double down on this. Give me some alcohol and a firearm. I'll get it done, right? Not that kind of thing.
Yeah, I also appreciate you manning up and realizing that it's time we had some gun responsibility laws like red flag laws and background checks.
Well,
and,
hang on a second.
Yes,
Just to clarify this for a second. That's not exactly what I said there, Joe. What I said was, I don't think we should be giving, if the left says that they want to have all these laws, why are they ignoring this biggest one? Of the last bunch of mass shootings we've had, who's behind it every single time? And yet they say that this transgender business, rather than actually deal with the mental health problems, they're saying it's something we need to affirm. And how's that working out?
Horribly. And
Right.
I'm not exactly welcome in a lot of progressive circles as a liberal because I believe that transgenderism is a mental illness, and I feel sorry for the sane ones like Brianna Wu out there working through it. But if we need these laws, and we need to have them also apply to transgenderism, and realize that anti-Semitism is also a mental illness. I mean, it's just a disease. It's just horrible.
You're saying irrationally hating a group of people is a mental illness? Joe, what's come over you?
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe.
Irrationally hating.
Yeah, Joe, you're not wrong, but I mean, think about what's going on out there today. You have the left spinning and spinning and spinning, trying to say, oh, no, 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 no. Don't talk about that. That's not a cause, when we've had tons of evidence to the contrary. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, more of your calls, more of your texts, plus more audio insanity from the Democratic National Convention. Whoo, boy! Talk about mental insanity and undiagnosed mental problems. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. The Democrats are having their big annual meeting. And the crazy that's coming out of it, you know, you remember when the Republicans lost badly to Obama and they had that after-action report, which they called the autopsy of the election? What was that, in 2008 or 2012? I forget which one it was. I think the autopsy was in 2008 when they did that, and they said, how did we lose so badly? I don't see the Democrats doing that. At the DNC, all they did was double down on all of this. Mike, I'm so mad I wasn't paying attention to the fact that this was happening. Would have been great to do a remote from there. Would have been great, and get all them doubling down on crazy and go, did this work for you last time? Because it's not working for you this time. Would you like to know how they opened the thing? I just saw this audio today. Here's how they opened it.
This is Lindy Somek, who is from the Saginaw Ojibwe Nation, and she's going to deliver our land acknowledgement today. Lindy.
Bonjour, Lindy Somek, Nindichinikas, Amekdodam, Saginaw Chippewa Dojaba, Anishinaabe Kwe and Dow. Good morning, DNC members, friends, and relatives. Let's talk about the land for a second. The DNC acknowledges and honors the Dakota Oyate, the Dakota people, who are the original stewards of the lands and waters of Minneapolis. The Dakota cared for the lands, lakes, and the Wapatonka, the Great River, the Mississippi River, for thousands of years before colonization. This land was not claimed or traded. It's a part of a history of broken treaties and promises. And in many ways, we still live in a system built to suppress Indigenous peoples' cultural and spiritual history. As Democrats...
Okay, enough. If you feel that strongly, give it back to the honka wonka tonka toy people. If you feel that strongly about it. This drives me nuts. Anytime I go to a Kraken game, they do a land acknowledgement. Well, if you feel that strongly about the Duwamish or Salish or whoever's tribe lands we're on, then give it back to them. This is such BS. Everybody thinks it's like the Disney version of Pocahontas. These tribes were massacring each other long before we showed up. Do yourself a favor. Do a Wikipedia search, which is a lefty thing. Do a Wikipedia search of Chief Sealth. Really, check out Chief Sealth and see what he did. He was a slave owner. He massacred other tribes. He took their women for himself. Uh-oh, I'm giving them ideas. They're going to go tear down his statue right across from the 5 Points bar, right behind Como Plaza. Let's go tear down his statue. No, guys, it's part of our history. But to try and whitewash it, or Disney wash it. That's what we'll go from now on. To be like, oh, it's just the color of the rainbows and the animals talk to Pocahontas. Yeah, guys, that's not how it works. It's really, really not. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris apparently was in massive debt after her campaign, and the DNC has decided to pay it off. So all those billions of dollars she raised that didn't help her win an election, she was still in debt afterwards. It's like they were just saying the typical Democrat thing. More money. Throw the money everywhere. Let's just throw the money, put it in a T-shirt cannon and fire it, and hopefully we'll get her elected. Yeah, now the DNC is paying off her campaign debt. So those of you who are donating to the DNC, just know where your money's going. It's to pay off a losing campaign that already happened, not for any future victory. That's what they're doing. So after all that money, and by the way, I think she far outraised how much Donald Trump brought in. Far outraised him. And yet he won. So if you guys want your money, continue to go to something like that. Be my guest. I was torn the other day because somebody invited me to a speaker event for an organization I don't really like, but I really like the speaker. And I'm sitting there going, do I want to hear the speaker badly enough to give this organization money? I'm really kind of torn. But here, guys, I know you support, some of you out there support the Democrats. Do you really want your money going to pay off a failed campaign for Kamala Harris, who helped cover up the Joe Biden insanity? Is that really where you want your money going? We go to the Warrior injury law line. Take a call from Ted in Gig Harbor. Ted, what's up?
Ari, there's two things we got to do. One, let them talk. Don't give them any ideas. Don't point out too loudly that they're doubling down on stupid. Let them do it. Just like Senator Kennedy said about AOC. You know, the other thing we need to do is if we can't beat these suckers now, if the conservatives and the Republicans can't beat these guys now, we might as well hang it up. We got to get our voice out there. We got to say, here's the problems. Here's the solution. It's worked before. It's working in other states. It'll work here.
I agree. And you know what we need to do?
Yeah.
We need to stay away from the non-story stories. We don't need to get hung up in stupid, like Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. Stay away from that kind of stuff and focus on, so the Democrats are out there protesting because they want more crime in Washington, D.C.? That's what you guys want? Stick with that kind of playbook.
That's right. You know, Trump actually said some nice things about him. Hey, I wish him the best of luck. He's a great guy, a great player, and she's a wonderful person. You know, let it go. And just, you know. So, yeah, we need to, like, okay, Mad Manny, Zero Mad Manny. Where's the conservative voice out there saying, no, this is ridiculous. Remember Rudy Giuliani? Those things worked, and we can do it again.
Well, I'll tell you this.
There's no one yelling like that.
What we have now seen from Washington, D.C. and Mad Manny and all these other lunatics, what we have now seen is that having a city like Seattle look this way is a choice. And that choice was made by the Democrats. For example, when their new buzzword, affordable housing, right? Is it affordable for you now, Ted, even in Gig Harbor, living under Bob Ferguson? And yet I hear all about this affordable housing, but it's not for me and you. They just figure if we keep saying it often enough, people will give us money for, the poor people.
Right.
But it made it less affordable for us.
Like Morning Phil said, it's not affordable housing, it's subsidized housing.
There you go. I didn't even know Phil said that. I am 100% stealing it and giving Morning Phil no credit whatsoever. No credit at all. Ted, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Leonard in Shoreline. Leonard, what's up?
Ain't nothing much. You know, getting back to the story about those two kids that were killed out there in Minnesota. Now that they have identified this so-called she, and now we know that person is transgender, I wonder if they've taken down his post yet on YouTube.
They pulled everything. But the thing is that it was captured beforehand so people could see it, and they are talking about it at press conferences. I want to remind you, our police chief, Sean Barnes, when he was the police chief during one of these mass shootings, said he didn't want to release the info because it might be offensive to the shooter's family. That is the police chief of Seattle, Washington. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, more of your calls, more of your texts, plus we will also be talking about a Rocky Horror event locally, which I got a very strange email about this drag show. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Do you remember we did a story 2 weeks ago about this drag show at an elementary school when the pictures went viral? And I looked at those pictures and I said, why are they dressed like the Rocky Horror Show? Yes, I know the difference between the Rocky Horror Show and the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I'm ashamed to admit it. But I said, why are they dressed like that? And it turned out the drag show was Rocky Horror themed. If you don't know what the Rocky Horror Picture Show is or the Rocky Horror Show is, trust me, you are better off. You are not missing anything. A lot of people just assumed it was some kind of drag show. But the question was, why was this on an elementary school property? Why were there kids present at it? What excuse is there for grown men to parade around in lingerie in front of children? And people were upset about it. So there was a school board meeting of the Sumner Bonnie School District. And I got this email. I wasn't there, but somebody sent me the comments of Abby White, who's apparently the owner of Hope Development Practice, which was this therapist facility that was behind the drag show. They sponsored this thing. Hey, by the way, those of you that were listening in the opening segment, see the connection? You see the connection? What does therapy have to do with drag shows? Right. So apparently, she gave a whole speech about the importance of drag queens and why they were there, and said that this group was the first to defend against the discrimination against the LGBTQ community. So you think bringing all that to kids at a school is the way to go? My thing is, what has my thing always been? Take, for example, the Mopop. When the Mopop announced that they were having a summer camp about drag, I said, I don't care. It's a private institution. It can do what it wants. Do I agree with it? No. But I didn't go ballistic about it. Here you're talking about taxpayer resources. That's where I draw the line. She acknowledges the pictures were inappropriate, but blamed it on the photographer who took them from inappropriate angles. Hang on a second. The photographer was Dawn Land, who goes to these events and take pictures of it. So they're mad that Dawn Land took the pictures, not that the thing happened? I'm trying to understand. What were the angles of the pictures discriminatory? What are you doing here? She also blames the photographer for causing hate to rise. She then claims to have death threats against her. Okay. As a person who has gotten actual death threats, let me tell you there is a difference, because us at KVI get some interesting texts and emails and calls. There's the, I hope you all die. There's the, I hope you all get shot. And then there's the, I'm going to come to your house and kill you. Very different things. Having gotten a lot of both online, I could tell you there's a difference. You shouldn't get death threats. That's something that should never happen. But they always claim to get death threats. And then when you say, show us, they never actually want to say it. This is the new thing. We get death threats. Yeah, presented no evidence whatsoever. So now you're mad at everybody else for calling out this stupidity? Yeah, that's not your best excuse. You know what your best excuse is? Here's what you should say. You're right. The school district rented it to us, so we didn't think there was a problem with it. But now that we see that it was little kids who attended it, even though we were targeting the little children, maybe this is more appropriate for an older audience. For example, the Rocky Horror Picture Show has an R rating. No kid should watch that. I think in high school, I was too young to be watching that movie. I remember somebody put that on at somebody's birthday party in the basement, and I go, what the hell am I looking at? And this was in the 90s. That is something for college, maybe. In fact, I don't think there's any artistic value in the Rocky Horror Show. You want to say the soundtrack has some? I will grant you that. But the movie itself, aside from Tim Curry, and we know what Tim Curry is wearing in that thing, why? There is no artistic value in that movie. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Bennett, our frenemy Bennett, who is back from his world travels. Bennett, how was your trip?
Oh, good. Minor correction. There was a recent bar trivia round that it cost me because I didn't know the lyrics to one of the Rocky Horror Picture Show songs. So there is.
You didn't know how to do the time warp again? I understand. Yes.
No. Well, so you were talking, I mean, to get serious, you were talking about like the school shooting issue. And I looked this up while I was in Holden. I just want to read you something for an article. It was about the question of what percent of mass shootings are actually committed by transgender people. So this is what it says, quote, over the past decade, the nonprofit Gun Violence Archive has recorded more than 5,300 mass shootings defined as incidents in which 4 people were shot, including perpetrators. Only 4 of those, less than 0.1%, were committed by people known to identify as transgender.
time out.
non-binary.
Where
End
are
quote.
you
Okay.
where are you pulling that from, Bennett? Because the JAMA Journal does not agree with you.
So this is the article is on a site called thetrace.org, but they're quoting a study by the Gun Violence Archive. So, I mean, if you search for the Gun Violence Archive study, there'll be probably lots of articles referring back to this. So if 0.1% of the mass shootings that they tracked committed by trans people, but trans people, most recent statistics make up about 1% of the population in the U.S., that strictly speaking means they're about 10 times less likely on average to commit shootings. Now, there's an asterisk there because that's data over the past couple of years, but the 1% of people being trans people, that's today. And so that was probably lower in past years. But
so what I'm saying is, do me a favor, send it over to me, Bennett. Seriously, you got all my info. Send it over to me because I want to compare it to the studies that I'm looking at, and I want to see what they're each looking at so I can compare them. Can you do that for me?
Okay, I know this is looking at mass shooting, which they defined as
three or more. I think it's 3 or more.
Were shot.
Yeah,
and I'm not sure if that means hit by a bullet or if it means fatalities.
Yeah.
But in either case, whatever subset you're looking at, if they were 10 times less likely committed by trans people, that number is unlikely to change if you change it to 3 people.
Do me a favor, just send it over. Let me check it out. All right, buddy. Welcome back. Good to have you back. Glad you enjoyed your trip. We'll have to have you back on the show sometime to give us all the details about it because you went for a really, really good cause. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show? Give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, Hamasniks that protested at Microsoft planted listening devices on campus. Why is the media not covering this? We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. But what the hell did I just listen to? What was that news at the top of the hour? Tell me you're trying to avoid talking about a mass shooting committed by a trans individual without telling me you're trying to avoid talking about a mass shooting committed by a trans individual. Shall we go through the stories we just heard at the top of the hour? Rampage Jackson's son. Hang on. I got to go back to 2011 and pull out that A-Team movie to remind myself who Rampage Jackson actually is. Okay.
People will try to tell you that movie's bad. They are lying. That is fun as hell.
It is a great movie, but
I didn't say it was a great movie. I said it was fun as hell.
Fun as hell. I'll give you fun as hell. But Rampage Jackson's son... This is all the human interest stories that they go, quick, we have to reshuffle. Don't talk about the trans shooter. Reshuffle. Quickly. Pivot. What?
Okay. But it's rock, paper, scissors day.
Oh, well, hey, we're not at rock, paper, scissors day.
Okay.
Before they discussed rock, paper, scissors day, shark attack? Okay. I mean, cool, but what? Top story? These are all human interest. Then, Mike, we get to rock, paper, scissors day. And then after that, literally as if they weren't trying to distract a squirrel, they literally did a story about a squirrel at Yankee Stadium. What? Getting his own baseball card. Look, squirrel, pay no attention to the trans shooter who shot up a Catholic school. Are you kidding me with this? What the hell did I just listen to? Tell me you're trying to avoid talking about the trans mass shooter. I joked earlier this morning that this story would be gone from the headlines in 3, 2, 1. Mike, this story happened, let's see. I know it happened right when I was at the gym this morning. So it happened around, 9 a.m. our time? It's 4 o'clock. Wow, that was quick. Normally they give you the day. But now they're trying to erase it. Hang on. Now we got to do a little experiment. Sorry, this is derailing what I had planned. All right, let's go to CNN's website. Okay, the shooting's still top story over there. MSNDNC or MS Now, whatever they're calling it. And hang on, I'm looking. It's still sort of the top story on MSNBC. But the news just there? Squirrel. That's the top story. Rock, paper, scissors day. That's the top story. Hang on. New York Times. Let's do this. New York Times, nytimes.com. Top story of the day. No, this is still the top story. So my question is, when does this move from those sites? What do you want to say, Mike? Tomorrow morning? Tomorrow morning they're not going to be talking. That was really quick. Really, really quick. I need to have a few words with the people behind the news because that was dumb. You know what they don't want to talk about? They don't want to talk about his manifesto, the suspected Minneapolis shooter, and that he posted a video showing the manifesto and weapons. Now, the firearms had some interesting messaging on them, and interesting is one way to put it. It glorified multiple other mass shooters, had their names written on these things. Also, had this, I'm the woker, baby. Why so queerious? That's a line from The Dark Knight. If you don't know that, just really messed with. Where is your God now? Oh, and then there's all this on there. Kill Donald Trump. Donald Trump should die. And then there's this stuff. I mean, I don't know where he found the time to do all this. Must have had no friends or something. But he also wrote on there, Israel must fall. Burn Israel. 6 million wasn't enough. He also praised a neo-Nazi who killed 70 people in Norway in 2011. This is clearly a mentally deficient individual, and yet the left isn't going to want to talk about this much longer. They want to talk about squirrels at Yankee Stadium getting their own baseball card or rock, paper, scissors day. Yeah, so anti-Israel, anti-Semitic people, it's a mental disorder? Yeah, I'll agree. You know these lunatics yesterday that took over Brad Smith, the president of Microsoft's office? At the end of the show yesterday, our friend Jeremy Harris from Como News, one of the few remaining real reporters in our area, was at the press conference of Brad Smith, and he posted that Brad Smith had been talking about listening devices. So I went back and pulled the footage of this press conference. Brad Smith's office was occupied by 7 Hamasniks, and there were a bunch of other ones running around the campus. The 7 who were there, 2 of them were Microsoft employees, 1 of them was a Google employee, and the rest were known activists. Here's exactly what he said.
We need to keep our workplace safe and secure. We need to keep our employees secure while we honor the freedom of expression that is a hallmark of this country and American life. But obviously, when 7 folks do as they did today, storm a building, occupy an office, lock other people out of the office, plant listening devices even in crude form in the form of telephones, cell phones hidden under couches and behind books.
Hang on. Listening devices. So you thought you would bug his office with cell phones? Now, you know that Microsoft has many government contracts, not just with Israel, but the U.S. government. And they were trying to bug this guy's office? When can we get the feds involved in this? Because we need to get the feds involved in this. Oh, it turns out they may already be involved. Because apparently, over the weekend, a bunch of these lunatics showed up in kayaks outside Brad Smith's home and other Microsoft executives. And apparently Microsoft reached out to the FBI and said, guys, we really need some help from these activists. Something's going on here. You need to investigate these guys. They called the FBI on their own employees. They're so bad. Now, one of their employees we know. It's Hossam Nasser, who also led the shutdown of University of Washington's Board of Regents meeting last year where they were discussing anti-Semitism, and he shut it down. They occupied the building. This is a guy from Egypt. This is a guy who is involved in some of the most anti-Semitic, terrorist-adjacent groups that are out there. This guy was working for Microsoft after having a record like that. Do you know how he got hired, would be my guess? DEI. This is probably Microsoft's own fault that they let this fox in the henhouse. Why would they hire this guy? Why? What, because he graduated from Harvard? Why did Harvard take this guy? He's a radical activist. And this is a guy they took in. They created their own problems. But Microsoft has been targeted so much by these guys, especially their executives, that now they have to worry, and they had to call the FBI on their own staff. What else did this guy say?
That's not okay. When they're asked to leave and they refuse, that's not okay. That's why, for those 7 folks, the Redmond police literally had to take them out of the building. 2 of those 7, only 2 of those 7, are Microsoft employees. One is a former Google employee. I think it's the closest a Google employee has ever gotten to my office in the 23 years I've been here.
Clever. Funny. It's funny. I get it. Well, you probably have a lot of ex-Google employees who transferred over to Microsoft or vice versa. Very funny. But why do you do that? Because you don't want them stealing what's in the office. And these activists got in. By the way, how did they get in? The last time they were on campus, they had fake Microsoft IDs. Can a fake Microsoft ID get you past security? Or did the current employees sign everybody in as in, bring a guest to work day? You would think security would be tighter at Microsoft, but apparently any idiot with a keffiyeh can walk on campus? It's worse than that. Apparently, Microsoft had advance warning of a possible attempt to infiltrate the building. It's this specific building, which houses top executives. He also said, quote, we did get a report yesterday afternoon from an employee that someone from the activist group No Asia for Apartheid was calling around and seeking a floor plan for this floor. So obviously, one way or another, they figured out how to get in. We'll adapt our security accordingly. We obviously need to keep our facilities safe and secure. A floor plan. What is this, the movie Sneakers? We need to hack into the toy company so we can get the box, which is in the office next door. We need the guy's voice print so we can access the secure area where Ben Kingsley is hiding out with his hacker software. We need to get Dan Aykroyd, and we need to get River Phoenix to hack into the toy company with Robert Redford because they have a floor plan of the building. Are you kidding me? You guys had employees asking for a floor plan of the building, and you didn't think this might be a problem, given that you'd had these lunatics on campus multiple times beforehand? You're a victim of your own DEI hiring. I don't mean to victim blame because Microsoft didn't deserve this, but you hired these lunatics. And after what happened at your Build conference earlier this year, do you know what it takes to be at the Build conference? This is something you need to understand. I had to talk to a Microsoft buddy about this. When Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, is speaking, or anybody high profile is speaking, they have limited seats for that. And people have to vouch for the people in their department, in their team, to get them in the room because they don't want anything going wrong when this thing is being televised to the entire world. And yet, this is who they vouched for? Or this is who fooled their way into being at these things, that they could disrupt these things with protests? Well, what happens is when you hire a bunch of woke employees, this is what you get, unfortunately. I know a lot of people at Microsoft are not that way. We have our sources. We have our informants at Microsoft. But it's a tech company, and that's what goes with it. These lunatics came in, occupied an office where likely material that works with government and is classified is kept. Are the feds going to investigate? I've reached out for comment, haven't heard back. I'm wondering if the feds are going to get involved in this because these lunatics showed up at the home of these executives as well. Microsoft has been a frequent target of anti-Israel and anti-war activists because of its major contracts with the U.S. Department of Defense and intelligence agencies. The company provides cloud cybersecurity, artificial intelligence services to the Pentagon, including through its multi-billion-dollar Azure government platform. Smith acknowledged that much of Microsoft's work in Israel centers on cybersecurity operations tied to the Israeli military, and it's coordinated with other U.S. allied governments in the Middle East. Activists argue that the same capabilities make Microsoft complicit in military operations in Gaza. So, with all this insanity, you have your own employees coming after you, which is bonkers crazy. Absolutely crazy. But you hired some of these guys. I mean, this guy Nasser, all you had to do was check his social media. He's burning U.S. flags. Literally burning U.S. flags. And, you know, that used to be something we agreed with the Democrats on. Here's Hillary Clinton back in 2006.
So I hope, Mr. President, that we can pass a law that criminalizes flag burning and desecration. I agree that this burning, this desecration that can happen to our flag is something that people have a right to ask this body to try to prohibit and prevent.
Man, that's bad audio quality. I put the blame on myself. That sounds like it came out of the 1930s with all that crackly static. 2006 wasn't the 1930s. I know we were still starting with high def. But come on. Yeah, it just makes Hillary Clinton sound older. But you hired a guy who's burning the American flag in his social media. You're hiring a guy who's sticking up for terrorist groups in his social media. You're hiring a guy who, okay, let's go back in time a little bit. Was there social media in 2006? Not really. But this is a guy who you knew about it because he bragged about his activism. Yes, this DEI nonsense has been going on for years. Literally for years, this stuff. I mean, the tech companies kind of brought this on themselves by going woke. This is the stuff they're now dealing with. And these protests aren't going to stop. They're going to keep going and keep going and keep going. But why do you think this story disappeared from the headlines? Why do you think it disappeared so quickly? Here's something else. You notice that regarding the headlines, I didn't see any news outlets talk about this in the opening line or the headline about the listening devices. I know that Como News covered it. And I know that Jeremy Harris was covering it. But so many outlets didn't talk about this, so much so that I have people nationally reaching out to me when I posted the video of that, going, why is nobody talking about this? Because if they talk about this, the Democrats have to admit that they have let foxes in the henhouse, that this whole pro-Hamas movement is a domestic terrorist movement. And I don't know why anybody's surprised by that, because they're literally supporting a terrorist organization. It's on our streets. It's in our schools. It's in our companies. A lot of the people are silently agreeing with these lunatics in these tech companies. A lot of people are openly agreeing with these lunatics in the schools. And look where it gets you. Talk about red flag laws regarding firearms. And yet this kid was posting the stuff on social media and nobody saw it or nobody reported it. Nobody saw the stuff he was writing on his guns. Otherwise, this is clear red flags right here. This kid had no criminal history, but was somebody who clearly was brainwashed by the far left with the trans ideology. This kid had a mental health issue. People enforced it. People doubled down on it. And where did we get? We got a mass shooting out of it. And there were warning signs. So let's have a lively debate here, because when I brought this up earlier in the show, some of you got very cross with me. Some of you got very, very upset. Do you think that somebody who has mental health issues should have access to firearms? Do you think that the Second Amendment precludes putting any restrictions on firearms whatsoever? We can have a common sense discussion about this. We really, really can. A lot of you after October 7th said, Ari, why don't they have the Second Amendment in Israel? Well, it's very different in Israel. In Israel, to get a gun, you have to have served in the military, and they take it away for a lot of different reasons: divorce, mental health, all these other issues. So that's not the country you want to be comparing this kind of stuff to. But what do you think? Should there be any red flag laws, or are they just going to say, well, Ari, then you realize, of course, they're going to say that conservatism or republicanism or anything like that is a mental health issue, and then they're going to take away your guns. Support of Donald Trump, you must be crazy to support him. They're going to take away your guns, which is why you would say that the Second Amendment is absolute. But we do have laws on the books that say if you are a danger to yourself and others, things can be done about this. So the question is here, why did nobody report it? What, his family didn't know he had all these guns in his house? They didn't know he was writing all this stuff on the guns? People didn't have concerns? These are questions that come up every single time there's one of these shootings, but I can't stress enough. I can't stress enough to our Christian friends. You have to make these things hard targets. You have to make your schools, you have to make your churches hard targets, because there are crazy people out there brainwashed by our own schools, our own colleges, our own institutions, who clearly would do something like this. And that seems to be what this case is. Our synagogues, our Jewish schools, they are fortresses. And you know what? You need to do the same thing to the churches, and you need to do the same thing to the Christian schools and the Catholic schools. Unfortunately, that's the times we're living in right now. And the Democrats saying it's about guns? No, it's not about guns. It's about you guys emboldening this mental health insanity. And rather than say we need to treat the mental health insanity, you're saying, oh, we want to affirm it. It's like an argument with women. All right, guys, gals, we can be honest about this. Guys think, you have a problem? Let's fix it. What's the solution? Girls think, I want to be acknowledged. I want you to understand my feelings. Every husband and wife right now is going, yeah, I understand. Why can't my husband, why can't my wife fix it or acknowledge it or whatever the case may be? We need to stop thinking that way. And you need to start thinking, here is how we fix the problem. These schools need to be hard targets. You have a mental health issue where you think you're in the wrong body? We need to address that. We need to solve that, because that is not normal. Why is it you think anorexia or bulimia is a mental health issue, which it is, but you don't think somebody wants to cut off pieces of their own anatomy is a mental health issue? They should be treated the same way. As I said in the opening segment, one of the biggest mistakes we made was taking gender identity disorder out of DSM-5, which is the Gray's Anatomy of the mind. Changing it does not change scientific fact. And the longer we ignore these things, the more problems we are going to have. Supporting a terrorist organization is not normal. Oh, but they have the right to peacefully protest. They're not peacefully protesting. When you occupy somebody's office that could have military secrets in it, that's not peaceful. When you plant listening devices, that's not peaceful anymore. They should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss as the show continues, including a school district is already going on strike, first day of the year. Well, it looks like Bob Ferguson's plans are working out just as he planned. Give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, schools may be out a lot longer than that, especially the Evergreen Public Schools District. Why? They are now on strike, my friends, for the first time in the union's 57 years. Why do you think they were emboldened enough to go on strike for the first time in 57 years? Answer, Bob Ferguson and Washington Democrats. I'm reading from the Columbian. Paraeducators, bus drivers, and maintenance staff, joined by teachers, students, and other supporters, gathered on the sidewalk outside Evergreen High School at around 8 a.m. Cars on 18th Street honked as they drove past the East Vancouver High School campus as union members and supporters cheered. They won't be able to start school if we don't come to an agreement. All of our labor partners are not crossing our picket lines, so there's no one to man the schools without us. A sign carried by a union member said, "Pay me what I'm worth and give me the respect I deserve." Members of the Evergreen chapter of Public School Employees of Washington, SEIU, Local 1948, by the way, SEIU, radical leftist organization, voted Thursday to go on strike, which would have been the first day of school today. Teachers said they would not cross the picket lines, according to a union statement. The district delayed the start of school to September 2nd to give bargaining teams time and opportunity to reach a contract that works for both parties under the district's current budget constraints. The union's contract expires on Saturday. Members cite low wages, lack of retention language, and unpaid work hours as core issues. So hang on a second here. I want to ask the first question. You had all summer. You couldn't figure it out? Why do they always wait till the last minute? Because they know parents will get mad and say, give them what they want so we can just get our kids back into school. First time in 57 years, you say, huh? Interesting, it never got to this point before. Mike, you know that segment we do, Ari Predicts the Future? Well, we predicted this ages ago. I will go back to an article I wrote for the Post Millennial on May 20th, 2025, right after we covered it on the show. On Monday, Washington Governor Bob Ferguson signed a bill into law that will open the door for striking workers to collect unemployment benefits, potentially for up to 6 weeks. Senate Bill 5041, sponsored by Senator Marcus Riccelli, Democrat of Spokane, allows workers who are unemployed due to labor strikes or employer lockouts to claim unemployment insurance benefits starting 15 to 21 days after a work stoppage begins. Can we break this down the way it should be done? So we said at the time, if you do this, there is no incentive for them to come back to the bargaining table because one of the incentives is we are currently not getting paid. And unions eventually run out of money in the strike funds that pay wages while workers are striking. So you have now taken away any incentive for up to 5 to 6 weeks. Hey, that's like 2 months of school. You have now taken away the incentive of anybody to come to the bargaining table because they know they can just get their money from your taxpayer dollars. So taxpayer money that you are funding is now going to pay your kids' teachers to not teach or to teach and brainwash your kids. No matter what, you are screwed. At least if you pull your kids out, they're not getting brainwashed anymore, and you don't have to worry about school starting on time. Question, by the way, for these striking teachers. And by the way, if anybody's in this district that wants to call us up and argue with me on this, be my guest, 206-421-5757. I've looked up a lot of your salaries. You know, Washington State teachers are among the highest paid in the U.S. I don't know any other job where you take off 3 months out of the year and get paid this much money. Mike, I don't think I'd get paid nearly this much if I took off 3 months out of the year. I think they'd say, Ari, there's the door. That's where you get to go. 9 months out of the year is really all they have to work. Yeah, you can get as mad at me as you want. But you know as well, oh, we have prep to do. I know. You know how much prep I do at night for this show? Do you have any idea how much? Mike knows because Mike is like, why the hell is he sending me emails at 2 o'clock in the morning? Mike knows.
I remember very early on in the show, and you would talk about these mile markers like, coming up on spring break and summer break and winter break. And it took me, I'm like, what are you talking about? Mm-hmm. Oh, well, when we go on winter break, I'm like, we don't do that here.
Who's we, Komosabe?
Yeah.
Kimosabe? Yeah. Who's we? I think I was referencing it because I was talking about my kids, right? And my kids
right,
are on break or the family. I didn't think I wasn't negotiating for those breaks. Wait, you mean we don't get, hang on, let's break this down for a second. You mean we don't get 2 weeks off in December, another 2 weeks off at, wait a second, around Easter time, something like that, and then 2 months off, never mind all the random holidays like Juneteenth, which we now get off all of a sudden. So we don't get that around here? Oh, this is a real bummer. This is a real problem we have here. You know, most jobs you get 2 weeks. That's what 2 weeks. That's what you normally get in a normal job. This was predictable. Everybody saw this coming, and yet the Democrats did it anyway. So people in the Evergreen School District, if you are furious about the fact that the teachers aren't teaching, oh, and here's something else, by the way, is that they still have the learning loss from COVID. So now you have more learning to make up. Are you going to extend the school year? You're going to extend the school day? But it's about the kids. It's about the kids. Spare me. Just spare me. Washington teachers are among the top paid in the U.S. and the lowest rated in the U.S. Just, wow. Let's just go. Let's give them more money. That'll solve the problem, right? We have thrown trillions of dollars at public education. And unfortunately, it ain't great. It ain't great. It just isn't. And it's getting worse by the day. This is something that now is being incentivized by the Democrats. That now people can go on strike anytime they want. Julie sends me a text. Ari, by law, the lost days must be made up at the end of the school year so teachers will not lose any income for the strike, regardless of when or how the strike ends. That's interesting. So what you're saying is they're getting paid right now, and they might actually be getting extra pay on top of this? Okay, that's crazy. That's crazy. But here's something else. Do they actually make up the days? I know by law they say that. But what does that mean? Canceling an assembly day or something? What does that really mean? I remember when I was a kid in New York, there was a massive nor'easter. That's a big snowstorm type thing. And it was so bad our school got hit by water in a wave because it was on the Long Island Sound. And the snow was so bad that year that I think we had like 3 weeks worth of snow days. It was that bad in New York, and storm days and you name it. And we had to make that time up. It really sucked. We had to make that time up. It was vicious. Are the kids here actually going to have to make that time up? And now it's cutting into their summer plans next time. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss. Apparently, the Democrats' war on the timber industry is now also going to be affecting not just timber, not just prices, but also kids' education. We'll explain what's going on when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I have a colleague around here from one of our sister stations who says, is there anything you disagree with Donald Trump on? And what do I say all the time, Mike? I say, you might want to try listening to the show a little bit more often. Now, I want to know what you think. I'm going to give you the phone number now. I'm going to give you the phone number again after I tell you the story. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. According to Fox News, President Donald Trump's plan to allow 600,000 Chinese student visas to be issued drew strong criticism from the right on Monday and Tuesday. The proposal comes as the president is amid trade talks with China, and backers of the plan could be necessary to keep certain universities afloat, whereas others say it could hinder the opportunity of American students. I'm going to play this both ways for a second. Option A, there are plenty of people from China who are fleeing communism who want to come here and live that American lifestyle. There are, and they should be allowed to come here. On the other hand, there are plenty of people from China who come here to infiltrate our society and bring communism here. What was that person's name who hung out with Eric Swalwell? Oh, right, Fang Fang. That's right. Oh, I'm sorry. He wasn't allegedly stooping a Chinese. He was allegedly stooping the Chinese spy. Not actually. We don't know that he was stooping the Chinese spy. It's all alleged. What about the Confucius Institutes that are on American college campuses? There are plenty of people who come here for a better way of life. What safeguards do we have to make sure they are coming here for the right reasons and not the wrong reasons? President Trump told reporters that with trade talks on China that are ongoing, I hear so many stories that we're not going to allow their students. We're going to allow their students to come in. It's very important, 600,000 students. It's very important. But we're going to get along with China. Is this China playing the long game? Where China goes, we'll make whatever deal you want for whatever minerals or anything else, but we're going to send you 600,000 of our students. Ha ha, ha ha, ha ha, ha ha. This should be a no-go. You know what the deal should be? Now, maybe it's President Trump talking the way President Trump does, where he just throws something out there. Hey, this is what they're asking for. He's not necessarily giving it to them. Or maybe President Trump negotiated a deal where he said, we want 600,000 of the students you won't let leave. We want them. Or maybe it is as bad as it sounds. Trump expanded on his comments during a cabinet meeting at the White House on Tuesday. Quote, I think it's very insulting to say students can't come here because they'll go out and start building schools and they'll be able to survive it. But I like that their students come here. I like that other countries' students come here. And you know what would happen if they didn't? Our college system would go to hell very quickly. It wouldn't be the top colleges. It'd be the colleges that struggle on the bottom. If you take out 300,000 or 600,000 students out of the system. He said, I told President Xi that we're going to honor having their students here. And now with that, we check in and careful and see who's there. So, by the way, that is a very subtle difference there. It says we're allowing the right students in. Now, my question to you is twofold. One, do you support this program? And two, do you think we are capable of vetting these students? I know everybody says, look, we now control the border and we can vet people, can we? What if China's lying to us? China is not trustworthy. This is them spreading their tentacles. And no, I don't think we should discriminate against Chinese people. That is not what I'm saying. But I am saying, are the safeguards in place to vet them? And realize your vetting comes from the other government. Is China going to be an honest broker? Is China going to give us the correct information? People ain't happy. People ain't happy at all about this. And one of the people is Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, I find this so disingenuous because she doesn't want to lose her good faith, good humor with Donald Trump, right? So she doesn't attack Trump directly, but she says we should not let in 600,000 Chinese students to attend American colleges and universities that might be loyal to the CCP. If refusing to allow these Chinese students to attend our schools causes 15% of them to fail, then these schools should fail anyways because they are being propped up by the CCP. Joe Chatham, Director of Government Relations at the Federation for American Immigration Reform, said granting 600,000 student visas to Chinese nationals threatens to put foreign students ahead of U.S. graduates. The focus should now be on reforms to limit access to sectors crucial to our economy and national security that have repeatedly been the target of corporate espionage and intellectual property theft, not expanding access to hostile countries. Educating foreign nationals should never be put before the interest of U.S. citizens and ensuring that our nation thrives. So, Laura Ingraham was actually asking Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick about this. And he said the president's point of view is what would happen if you didn't have those 600,000 is that you'd have a lot of problems with these universities and that they would fail. He's taking a rational economic view. I get that. Maybe we should be subsidizing Americans to go to these colleges. Maybe it's not as big of a deal as a lot of people think. What do you think? Should the 600,000 be granted visas? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, our final hour free for all, your calls, your thoughts, your texts, your stories, plus so much more. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour free for all your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card and tickets to the Washington State Fair. But before we get to any of that, looks like a lot of you wanted to weigh in on the 600,000 Chinese students that President Trump wants to bring into the U.S. Robin Lakewood says over on the Warrior Injury Law text line, Chinese can't be free in the U.S. If they have family they care about still in China, they'll be jailed. Gunny says no more Chinese spies, please. This one here from Dan Smith. Every foreign national wanting to acquire an education in the U.S. must be vetted extensively. The number should be limited to far fewer, like maybe 10,000. They should pay for their own education. We absolutely do not want to pay for it. So that's an interesting point right there. This is one that I see in a lot of the texts about they should pay for their own education. We should not be the ones paying for it. You want to come here and study in the U.S.? Sure, that's great. If, for example, a college thinks that you're a student of merit that deserves some kind of education or you're going to be great in some field, then they should pay for it. But people do not want their tax dollars going to this. Mike from Puyallup says, Ari, I think they should start with a lower number, much lower, and require the Chinese students to join a fraternity or sorority and do a huge amount of extracurricular activities. And if they are CCP, they'll be quickly converted. Oh, that's excellent. Very, very good. Yes, you want these American values or you want to go back to communism? Mm-hmm. Ari, it's okay. This is from the 253. Ari, it's okay for Chinese students to come, but they should not be given a free education at our expense. They should not have grants and must be proven to be legitimate and not just said to be okay by the Chinese. I see a theme coming on here. They also say, and this one, Mike from Puyallup also adds, and the CCP pays full tuition, room and board and meals with additional extracurricular funds. He's right. We shouldn't be accepting that, by the way. El Darthbo says, no to 600 Chinese students. Sorry, I do not trust Xi Jinping. He is always buying new pants to replace the pair that just got burnt. As for the universities, they can utilize loose with some of their endowment funds if money is an issue. Yeah, this one here from another 253. Cannot trust the CCP, period. This seems to be the theme that a lot of people are saying here. In fact, I got an email during the break with a link. This is from John to a New York Post article. Chinese doctor accused of stealing confidential U.S.-funded cancer research. Yeah, this is what a lot of people are worried about. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Jill in Lake Stevens. Jill, what's going on?
Hi, Ari. I agree, or I'm kind of on the fence with this subject because I think first and foremost, we need to make sure that if we're going to let the 600,000 students in, that there is no type of hidden agenda, unfortunately, because they're coming in from a communist country. And I don't want to sound discriminatory because I'd feel that way if they were coming in from Russia. So I'm kind of on the fence, and then I feel like it's taking spots away from our own American-age students that can attend universities that may not have the opportunity to do so because we're giving these opportunities to the Chinese students coming in. So I'm really not too sure how I feel about it.
Okay, so Jill, let me break down both of your points. And I'm not saying I disagree with you. In fact, I agree with everything you're saying, but just to play devil's advocate for a second here. So a lot of U.S. universities make their money on the foreign students. Whereas if these foreign students come here, they have to pay full freight. Whereas some American students can't afford it, and they look at it paying off the scholarships of the others. So, for example, here's a funny thing. My son just went off to study in Israel. In his school, they charge the Americans extra money to pay for the Israelis that go to the school. And my son chose this specific school. So I am actually paying more money for my kid to go to this school to pay for the Israeli students. We do the same thing here in the U.S. Right. It's the exact, we kind of do the exact same thing here in the U.S. So that's point number one. Point number two with the vetting. I think a lot of people on the text line, by the way, feel that if we could vet them appropriately, they'd have less of a problem with it. But who are you going to vet them with? Because the people you're vetting them with is the Chinese Communist Party. I think that's the big concern we have here, right, Jill? Like, you think if somebody's coming here for capitalism and to get away from the CCP, of course we want them here. They'll be Republican voters, right?
Yeah.
That's what we want. I mean, all the immigrants who call this show, who escaped from communist countries, they're always bigger Republicans than I am. And I think that would happen here too. Jill, appreciate the call.
True.
Appreciate the feedback. Appreciate the conversation. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. This one from the 360. No more bang bangs in the U.S. That's okay. We know where you were going with that one. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Bob in Tacoma. Bob, what's going on?
Hey, I just want to remind everybody, if you haven't read the 10 Planks of Communism, that's a must-read, just real high level and quick. The other thing to know is that the Chinese or CCP 70-year plan, and this was published 10 years ago, they want to be the world superpower in economy, in military, in every other measure that you can think of. And so by us being soft and politically correct and trying to pretend that we're not being fair by not letting them in, when their duty to country, and I don't say God because they don't really go that way, but their duty to country above all, and their family is threatened if they don't report and do the things that they're told to do to support the CCP, it's really ugly, and people just don't realize this.
Yeah, people like to think that the way it is in America is the way it is everywhere else. And look, anybody who's been to Mexico and has spent time outside those resorts can tell you, even though they are our neighbor to the south, it is a very, very different country. And that a lot of people come here because they want the freedoms America offers, but a lot of other people see America as a threat because they are dedicated to this crazy ideology. Now, here's something else, is that if a student wants to be rescued from communism, I say we rescue the whole family with them so their family's not at risk too. They'll be great Republican voters. They'll be great capitalists, assuming they're not a drain on our economy. I think that's a way to go too. But, Bob, you raised some great points.
I don't know how you do that, though. I don't know how you rescue them.
Right.
Because they don't want to be. They've been brainwashed, just like a cult from a young child perspective, and they've been educated, they've been trained, they've been threatened. I mean, all their life they've known you're loyal to a following. You can't save them.
Right, and that's actually something I try to tell everybody about what's going on in Gaza. That's exactly what you're fighting against, the same kind of deal. Bob, great call, great conversation. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. This is an interesting text from Tom. Tom is referencing when we were discussing earlier about the Minneapolis shooter. Ari, I appreciate your discussion of synagogue security and urging churches to do something similar. It is sobering today. Can you suggest some resources that Jewish congregations use that churches could also be trained by? I volunteer on our safety team, and he uses air quotes on that one, but actual quotes, at my church, and I have no real training in self-defense or security, and neither does anyone else, for the most part, including the leadership. This is typical of most churches, well-meaning amateurs with walkie-talkies, but in real emergencies, I think we might be sitting ducks. Tom, you just described half the synagogues before October 7th. They were the exact same way. I know that after October 7th, a whole bunch of people in my synagogue came up to me and said, Ari, we want to know how to use a gun. So, you know what we did? We went to our old sponsor, Security. We went out there, and every Sunday it was pro-Israel rally, then meet at the gun range. Every single Sunday for 6 months until people were trained up. In fact, we still have trainings going on with the people at the synagogue. But also, I'll tell you something else that a lot of people don't know, and a lot of you who go to churches right now hear what I'm saying. If you walk into any gun range with training classes and you say, we want to bring people from our church, they will be thrilled, absolutely thrilled. And they will say, we've been waiting for this. We will train you. We will show you how to do. You want us to go to your church and lay out and everything? You got a lot of ex-military guys there. They've been waiting for you to ask. Also on top of that, and I'm sure in the wake of what just happened, Homeland Security grants, great way to go, and there's lots of safety grants you can apply to as well. But also having a network with neighboring churches is very, very helpful, even if they're different denominations, saying we all got to be safe, we all got to be tuned into the same networks. And there are actually great resources from the federal government, Department of Homeland Security, that actually have these kind of resources. So I suggest you explore those, Tom. But also, here's something else. If you want recommendations for security companies that will handle a lot of the security for you, there are rent-a-cops and there are good security companies. So, Tom, if you email me, ari@kvi.com, that's ari@kvi.com, I'll give you the names of some good security companies that I know that you can hire because they are the best. Plus, some of them are deputized and some of them are off-duty cops, and some of them are really, really, really great. On the flip side, there's some other ones. So you be in touch with me, ari@kvi.com. That's ari@kvi.com, and I'm more than happy to give you that information because then we can make sure that your church is safe as well. Switching gears, when we were talking about China, one of the things people forget is that China was flooding our streets with drugs. Why do you think they were doing that? What's the upside for them? Well, one, they can make some money off it. But two, is that it's a weaker America. So here's this story that you may not have heard about. This is from the Department of Justice, that SeaTac apparently had a massive drug ring. A 22-year-old native of Sinaloa, Mexico, was sentenced yesterday in U.S. District Court in Seattle to 3 years in prison, to be followed by 3 years of supervised release for operating a stash house for the drug trafficking organization, announced acting U.S. Attorney Teal Luthi Miller. Mike, this one's interesting. SeaTac may not have homeless people, but they had a drug stash house there. Okay. So, Jose Carlos Peraza Alvarez was arrested. That's a lot of names. Was arrested August 2nd, 2024, when Drug Enforcement Administration agents raided the SeaTac Washington stash house where he resided. DEA agents seized 70 kilograms of methamphetamine, 3 kilograms of heroin, 1 kilogram of fentanyl pills, and 6 kilograms of fentanyl powder. At the sentencing, U.S. District Judge Kimberly K. Evanson said, "The aggravating point is the quantity of drugs seized. This is a serious offense involving large amounts of controlled substances." According to records filed in the case, this guy came onto the radar of law enforcement in the summer of 2024. The DEA was investigating a drug trafficking organization. By July of 2024, was able to surveil and determine his address in the city of SeaTac. In early August, they searched his address, as well as the address of a co-conspirator in Kent, Washington. The co-conspirator, Martin Alonso Pineda Torres, served as a runner for drug trafficking organization, and Pineda Torres had minimal amounts of drugs in his residence, but more than $12,000 in cash at the time of the search. He was sentenced in June to 22 months in prison. By the way, do these sentences seem kind of light to you? Why are they 3 years for having enough of those drugs to kill everybody in Seattle or Western Washington many times over? I think we should really change how we do sentencing for drug dealers. I really do. Pereira Alvarez pleaded guilty to conspiracy to distribute controlled substances in May. And then in asking for a 6-year sentence for Peraza Alvarez, prosecutors noted the deadly consequence of both fentanyl and methamphetamine. So basically here, they were doing the right thing. They said, well, Mr. Peraza Alvarez certainly possessed copious amounts of deadly fentanyl. He also had a sizable cachet of methamphetamine. Fentanyl is obviously known for its deadly properties. The government also notes methamphetamine was the second most common drug involved in King County overdose deaths in 2024. In 2024, there were 581 overdose deaths that involved methamphetamine, which represented 56% of all overdose deaths in King County. But he was only getting 3 years? Oh, here's something else. He was illegally in the U.S. and will likely be deported following his prison term. One little teensy tiny problem there, my friends. 3 years? If he gets out for good behavior early, then yes, he will be deported because President Trump will still be in power. But what if this guy gets out on that 3-year-ish mark, closer to 4 years now at this point, and then you have problems with the next president? Will they just let these guys back into the country? We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Carol in Kirkland. Carol, what's up?
Hi. Well, I am diametrically opposed to this. When I found out we still had 200,000 here, I was extremely upset. I think a lot of us thought that this was over with Trump. So
you mean the Chinese students? I just want to clarify what we're talking about. You talk about the Chinese students. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I have two kids who graduated are now professionals with engineering degrees, one in aero and one in mechanical. And in all cases, you will not find a dedicated engineering student now graduated that tells you that this is not a horrific idea. What happens is they do not mingle at all. They speak Chinese all the time. So when you're in an engineering department, all engineering is very collaborative. All the way through your profession, it's collaborative. That's not what they're here for. They do not need to go to university here. All of those kids have had what they get here in the schools of engineering. They've already had it in China. So they're here not for this at all. It's a complete and total farce. And there's no one that can tell you that this is not true. They get into school and they completely dilute the educational experience that your American kids are having, that are learning to collaborate. They're talking about, future businesses, and our kids are culturally the same. So as they go through business, you have the American ethic through business, and they make those relationships in school. A lot of innovation goes on in school. Everybody distrusts the Chinese because their experience. The only people that are for this are people that have no idea what they're talking about. So when they destroy the classroom environment and they're all 90% of them are in engineering. But believe me, not one of them has to do a lick of schoolwork because they're not here for that. Then I also have an apartment building, and I have rented to them in the past when I was not aware of how bad it was, and we had a lot of them here, especially on the east side. And they absolutely are not here for school. I can just tell you that.
So this seems
Those
like to
lights
be
burn 24 hours a day. I finally had to just tell all the realtors that tried to rent to them, none of us are going to do that because we don't know what's going on in our building. You could go any time of the night. You could drive there at 2 o'clock in the morning, and those lights were on. All the computer screens were on.
So this is the kind of thing where this is why people have concerns about this kind of stuff, because there's been so many incidents that talk about the threat that this has, especially when they were trying to influence our politics. How can you vet these people? And if you can't vet these people, if you can't do it because you can't trust the government it's coming from, you got real problems. Great points, Carol. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Terry in Anacortes. Terry, what's going on?
Hey, I was listening to your conversation there. I'm actually for students coming on I-20 visas. I'm a principal who had a lot of foreign students. It's a great program, a lot of good things that can come from it. But I think one of the big problems that's out there that everybody's worried about, you take like Harvard, 30% of their student population or more are all Chinese. They will never assimilate. You're going to have problems. What we have found where I'm at, we do not allow more than 5% from any given country because less than 5%, they will assimilate and you don't have any problems. Get more than 5%, they won't assimilate, and they stick to themselves, and you have your problems. And I think it's a great program. It's a lot of diversity. Everybody likes their diversity stuff. There it is. You learn a lot from various cultures around the world, but you got to limit it down to smaller numbers in any given institution.
Terry, what a great analysis, a data-driven analysis. I like that. How do you vet these students so you know you don't have problems, or is it when there's so few of them, they're able to go, yay, America, because then they're influenced by the surroundings?
Well, and that's what ends up happening. We have companies that go to various countries around the world and help wealthy individuals that want to send their kids to America because they pay full freight plus. We're talking they're going to be spending $40,000, $50,000. They're cash cows. It's a great thing. In the meantime, we get a little bit of variety within our cultural variety in our system. And like I say, when they're small groups, they don't have a choice but to make friends with Americans or other kids that are from other countries, and they assimilate. And we don't have problems. We only have problems when it's over 5%.
Fascinating. Terry, great insight. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Mike, who's in a truck. Mike, what's going on?
Yeah, couldn't help myself but weigh in on this. I never call these shows. No.
Tell
I
me
know what you're talking about.
Tell me how you really feel there, Mike.
No, don't do it.
Okay.
It'll be a disaster. It'd be a pure disaster.
That's what a lot of people are worried about, especially when you can't
How
vet
many
them.
of those students are true students?
Mm-hmm.
How many of them are young spies? How many of them are coming over here to mess up our computer system and hack our engineering and hack everything up? No.
Yeah, I hear your passion. I hear where you're coming from, Mike. I really, really do.
I echo that woman that was talking before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Mike. Believe me, I do, especially when you can't vet these students. Appreciate the call. Drive safely. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, there's a lot of local news that's gotten missed over the last couple of days, and it's insane. It's insane. It's like everybody in the state is on drugs. We'll have some of the crazier stories for you. But first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast right now on the Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and tickets to the Washington State Fair. Yet another reason to always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI, left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. There's been some bonkers, crazy true crime stories around in our neighborhood, and I want to make sure we got our full fill of them. Here's the first one that I saw today. According to My Northwest, a customer attempted to pull a bikini barista through a drive-through window in Lakewood. This is so 2024. Remember when this was happening all the time? I really had to go back and check. Sometimes people forward me articles, and I go and look, and the date is a year ago or 3 years ago, and it's very, very out of date. No, this happened last week. According to charging documents obtained by the Tacoma News Tribune, the incident took place at approximately 2:30 a.m. on August 18th at South Tacoma Way. 2:30 a.m. One, why is this place open at 2:30? Well, Okay. Nothing good happens after 2 a.m. The document stated that once he received his beverage, a man threw it in his car, grabbed the victim's arm after she reached for a clipboard. The bikini barista braced herself against the window frame until the suspect, who was alone in his vehicle, let go and drove off. Wow, this is crazy. Now, using a merchant's copy of the suspect's receipt, police were able to confirm the suspect's identity. Oh my God, do you know what that means? Do you know what that means? He didn't pay in cash. Paid with a credit card, you moron. So they could trace the credit card. Wow. He was arrested and charged with first-degree attempted kidnapping. In his interview with detectives, according to the Tacoma News Tribune, the suspect stated he was not in the right state of mind and had no intention of hurting the victim. Oh, we pleading insanity here? He admitted he was drinking and smoking marijuana the night of the event. Oh, now you can add DUI to your list of crimes there, sir. The man told police he was suffering through some relationship problems and simply wanted to see a pretty girl. There are clubs you can go to for that, sir. Meanwhile, what else we got happening around here? Oh, speaking of drunk people, the headline from Como News. Drunk driver killed friend who was also driving drunk while fleeing trooper. This happened in Everett, Washington. A suspected drunk driver is accused of killing his friend who police say was also driving drunk while fleeing from the Washington State Patrol. Victor Perez Cortez, 45, was booked into the Snohomish County Jail on a charge of vehicular homicide and is being held with a bail of $2 million. According to court records, he was a passenger in a 2025 Kia K4 that was stopped by a state trooper on Evergreen Way and West Maryland Avenue around 2:30 a.m. Wait a minute. I'm sensing a pattern here. Nothing good happens after 2 a.m. The trooper suspected the driver was impaired and was conducting a field sobriety test when the man ran off, got back into the car. At that point, Perez Cortez had moved to the driver's seat, and the original driver, who has not been identified, jumped into the passenger seat, and Perez Cortez sped off. Troopers chased the Kia north on Evergreen Way until it crashed at high speeds into a building. The collision killed the passenger and injured Perez Cortez. Everett police noted in the arrest report that there were several open containers of alcohol and crack cocaine found in the car. Are we sensing a theme here, aside from the 2 a.m. stuff? Man, what is happening in Washington? What else is happening around here? According to Como News, a Kirkland Parks and Rec Community Services lifeguard supervisor was praised for safely removing a drunk alligator. No, I'm just kidding. The alligator was not drunk. An alligator snapping turtle from under the dock at Juanita Beach Park last week. The turtle, known for its powerful jaws and aggressive nature, is considered invasive and can pose a threat to beachgoers. We have alligator snapping turtles? That's what I'm taking away from this. I didn't know such a thing existed. The dock at the park is just a short distance from a children's playground. According to U.S. Fish and Wildlife, the hulking dinosaur-like turtle is the largest freshwater turtle in the United States. Adult males can reach lengths of up to 29 inches and weigh up to 249 pounds. Adult females can reach lengths up to 22 inches and weigh up to 62 pounds. Touting 3 rows of spikes that give them a prehistoric appearance, muscular legs, and long pointed claws, the turtles can live up to 90 years in captivity. Although it's believed they live much longer in the wild. Well, anybody who's seen Finding Nemo could tell you that. Alligator snapping turtles are only native to waterways in the Midwest, Southeast, and some parts of the Southwest, meaning that the turtle found in western Washington is extremely far removed from its natural habitat. Is this one of these cases where somebody had one as a pet, couldn't take care of it anymore, and goes, "Go free! Go free!" And now you have this killing turtle right there next to a kid's park. Oh, that worked out real well. Didn't it now? Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. What else is happening in our wonderful Washington state? This one from Cairo. A collision on State Route 18 at Tiger Mountain Summit in Issaquah has led to the right westbound lane being blocked. This is yesterday. Don't worry. Here's what actually happened. According to the Washington State Department of Transportation Traffic, the collision involved a semi-truck hauling 40,000 pounds of bananas. The truck tipped over and is now blocking the right. It's not blocking it anymore. It was blocking the right lane. According to the WashDOT, the truck has to be unloaded before it can be righted. What is the craziest thing you've heard about tipping over in a truck? Still to this day. The two craziest ones I've heard about. In New York, I was driving to a bar mitzvah. A friend of mine's parents were actually driving us. Massive traffic, and we're freaking out that we can't get to the bar mitzvah in time. And what was happening? There was a Budweiser truck in the middle of the street. It had flipped over, and there was beer all over the freeway. Now, at that age, I did not understand the full implications. What a waste. Quick, grab some beer or whatever one. The craziest one I heard of locally was when the bees escaped. It was a truck full of bees, and they were calling for beekeepers to come to the freeway. That was not that beekeeper. No. That one protects the hive, not the truck. Yeah.
I was hoping that was going to be my time to meet Jason Statham, but no, the beekeeper stayed in retirement, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. So what's the craziest truck flip over you ever heard of? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Mike, I saw one. It was a meme, but it was real. This was a picture. Somebody had painted their truck like Optimus Prime.
Oh, awesome.
And he had gone off a bridge. So Optimus Prime is laying there in like a sewage canal.
Oh, no.
And they go, and this is how Optimus Prime ends.
Oh, no, the trauma.
Exactly. That was a sad, sad one. When we come back, my friends, Democrats are losing it over Donald Trump's attempt to get rid of mail-in balloting here in Washington. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and tickets to the Washington State Fair. Also, you can stream us at KVI.com. You can also use the KVI app. And while you're at KVI.com, you got all this new great content over there. Make sure you check it out and make sure you sign up to become a KVI insider so you can get the latest details on what's going on. And I'm sure we'll have some fun things in store after Labor Day to tell you all about. Switching gears over to what's happening nationally, we know that President Trump last week said that he's working on an executive order to end mail-in balloting. Well, around here, people went absolutely bonkers because this might actually cost the Democrats their monopoly. Tell me, how many elections have Republicans won since mail-in balloting went into effect? Yeah, we just keep counting until we get the results we want. And a lot of people don't have faith in the system. I actually think the biggest fraud whatsoever is when people are disenfranchised from voting. That's what it is, because they don't have faith in the system. So, according to Como News, you got a lot of local people not happy with this at all. King County Elections Communications Manager Halle Watkins told Como News what we see is absolutely an attempt to drive a narrative that sows doubt in the election. Halle, is that how you pronounce your name? Of course there's doubt in our election. You can register without providing any ID whatsoever. You can print out ballots from your house. Of course there is doubt. Tell you what, I'm going to reach out to this person and invite them on the show. Have them prove me wrong. This is why people have concerns. Washington State has voted exclusively by mail for the last 15 years, and there have been, excuse me, Como News, this is not accurate, and there have been no proven cases of widespread voter fraud related to mail-in ballots here or anywhere else in the country. What would you call the people we caught doing that in Yakima last year that everybody refused to prosecute? Oh, is it because you put in the word widespread voter fraud? Is that what it is? And also, what about the latest things we found out about from Glenn Morgan? How 1 in 7 voters don't have the correct data? Well, I guess it's not technically fraud. It's a problem with the voter rolls. They're already in there. Watkins said mail-in voting has had several positive effects in the Evergreen State. The access to the convenience of being able to vote by mail have really increased turnout. Washington State is regularly one of the top 10 states in terms of turnout across the country. That just ain't true with the primary. Did anybody fact-check this thing? And despite Trump's claim of massive voter fraud all over the place with mail-in ballots, Watkins said the state system actually makes things safer. Really? All right, Miss Watkins. Can you, are you going to mail me some cash in the mail? Can you mail me? Are you confident doing that? Also, how about the fires in the ballot boxes? How about that one? How about those people? They say with vote by mail, everything is counted in one space. Everything is processed in one space, which not only makes it more cost effective, but it also makes it more secure and more transparent. Really? It's cheaper to pay for all those envelopes and send all those people out to collect all those ballots and stop the fires, putting in fire suppression systems in the boxes. That doesn't sound cheap to me. So this is the kind of thing that they went out and found somebody who wanted to argue about this. And I know that if I opened up the phone lines right now, what do you guys think about the vote by mail? Do you have confidence in the vote by mail? Give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Lane says over on the text line regarding our last segment, we were talking about crazy things in trucks. Hey, Ari, remember the zebras that got loose off a truck and one was eluding capture for weeks? How could I forget about the zebra? Did it flip over or did they stop for a break or something and the zebras got out? I think it stopped for a break. Technically, that doesn't count as a turnover, spillover kind of thing. But I do remember the zebras. The memes were glorious of the zebra on the loose. Right, Mike?
Well, and to say nothing about that time the delicious Woodinville bourbon whiskey got tipped over also.
Forgot about that one.
And then it turns out it was empty bottles the whole time.
Yes. We were like crying on the show about that one.
I pour one out for my homie there.
Oh, that was a good one. This one here, Anita from Black Diamond says, is there anyone in the federal government that can make these people in Washington be held accountable for the waste of taxpayers' money? Yeah, Anita, it's called us, the voters. That's who gets to hold them accountable. Where we say, get out of office. Yeah, that's exactly. This is here's one to think about, by the way. We have gotten rid of people like Andrew Lewis. Now, we were able to do it because the progressive people wanted somebody they deemed as more progressive, even though I don't know how much more progressive you can get than Andrew Lewis. But I think that's actually a model that can be good. When you see a far, far, far left crazy progressive, if you can tell everybody how crazy they are and show them how crazy they are, like the way Ann Davidson ran against Nicole Thomas Kennedy, the Antifa lunatic, and was able to defeat her, that's actually key to success. That's a way you can actually win. Yeah, some good points there, by the way. So, Anita, if you really want to solve this problem, here's how you do it. Voters, get out there, get some good candidates to run against these people. That's how you do it. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news giveaway, your good news headlines, your chance to win a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, plus tickets to the Washington State Fair. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to our good news giveaway and our good news headlines, Flynn sent this over the text line regarding the last segment where we were talking about the trucks overturning and what was the craziest one. He sent that meme that's been around for years, which I still don't know if it's real or not. It's the Coke truck, which is clearly collided with a Mentos truck. And it goes, I don't think you realize how close we came to a world-ending event. I remember the first time I saw somebody do the Diet Coke with the Mentos before. I didn't know it could do that. They figured out something very cool, by the way. They drilled a hole in the Diet Coke bottle. And what they did was they put a paper clip through the hole and then loaded the Mentos onto the paper clip. And then they had one end of the paper clip sticking out of it on the other end and then screwed it back onto the bottle. So it acted like a fuse. They pulled it and then it dropped them in and then they ran, which actually makes it explode even more because now it's going through the little hole in the Coke bottle. And depending how much pressure it's under, does it blow off the plastic cap or not? Of course, when I found this out, I was 26 years old and adults were doing it, so I raised questions about all of us and how mature we were at that age, but still, okay. Meanwhile, this one from Fox 32, that a service dog, Bam Bam, who was stolen, was reunited with his blind owner, Angel Santiago, after being dropped off at a Chicago police station. The 14-year-old dog had been missing since June, sparking a nationwide outpouring of support. Police say the dog appeared healthy, though no arrests have been made. Chicago police said an unidentified man and woman dropped off a white and yellow dog at the 16th District Police Station Tuesday evening. Is it Dachshund? Dachshund? How do you pronounce that type of dog? Dachshund? I know I would hear it if I heard it, but I don't know everything about dogs. This is killing
Wiener
me.
dog.
Wiener dog. One of those little hot dog dogs.
There
That's
you
what
go.
it is. A hot dog. Officers confirmed it was Bam Bam, the 14-year-old service dog taken from Angel Santiago's backyard on June 5th. Santiago is legally blind due to glaucoma and type 2 diabetes. Rushed to the station, was reunited with Bam Bam around 9:30 p.m. Oh, it's just such a cute wiener dog. Since Bam Bam's disappearance, Santiago's story sparked a wave of compassion from across the country. Strangers raised more than $10,000 through GoFundMe, while volunteers passed out flyers, organized searches, and shared updates online to help bring the dog home. Bam Bam appeared to be in good health when he was recovered. No one is in custody. After being evaluated by the Niles Animal Hospital, Bam Bam received a clean bill of health. His nails were long and needed trimming, and he had some cardiac enlargement, but veterinarians said it could be a condition common to his breed. PETA contributed a $5,000 reward to help bring Bam Bam home, and now the group will celebrate the reunion by putting up billboards across Chicago. 5 detectives continue to investigate how the dog ended up at the station. The pair who dropped off the dog refused to give any information to police before leaving. Does that mean they're the ones who stole it and didn't like that they saw the flyers everywhere? Or does it mean they just said, no, we did our bid for the dog and its owner. We just want out of here and don't want to be involved anymore. Meanwhile, speaking of things escaping from trucks, Grays Harbor County, Washington, a group of bison is safe after they escaped their ranch and wandered onto a state highway in Grays Harbor County last week, according to the Washington State Patrol. Washington State troopers said they had a very interesting morning after multiple people reported the large mammals walking across SR 12 and SR 8 near Elma. All of the animals were successfully wrangled, and Washington State Patrol said no animals or humans were hurt. American bison can grow up to 2,000 pounds and can grow up to 6 feet tall, according to the U.S. Department of Interior. I ate bison one time. It's not my jam, shall we just say. I'm a little discriminatory. Maybe I'm too used to cows, but yes, not my jam. I did know somebody who was very big into the bison. They would have the bison all the time. Not my jam. I will say also, before we get to our good news giveaway, just another pitch for our friends at the GOP booth at the Washington State Fair. So remember that with the whole controversy and everything that happened, it's all been resolved. Everybody should go to the fair. Everybody should have a scone. But they are a little behind the 8 ball on recruiting volunteers to help them at the Washington State Fair. So I just want to remind everybody, if you have the time and you can help out the Pierce County Republicans, head on over to their website, Pierce County Republicans, be in touch with them. If you can take a shift, take 2 shifts, take a day at the Washington State Fair. That's almost a month where they need people to man the booth, and they're a little behind. So if you could help them out, head on over to the Pierce County GOP website and help them out. by volunteering to do a shift. Also, Mike, let's go over scheduling a little bit. I think we're almost finalized on our scheduling for the Washington State Fair. Pretty close to it at this point.
Do you have something else you need to resolve?
No, I think we're good. No, I think we're good. So let's go through it for a second here.
Sure.
KVI is going to be there on Military Mondays, which are the Mondays of the fair. When are you going to be out at the fair, Mike?
I will be there on the 1st in the afternoon and the evening. And
Okay.
Yeah. So come hang out with Big Mike on Labor Day.
Yeah, so I'm going to be out there on the 8th and the 15th, I believe, is what we're talking about right now.
Well, you and I will be there on the 8th together.
Together, yes.
Also in the afternoon and the evening.
Afternoon and the evening. And the 15th, I confirmed I don't have anything going on that day.
Oh,
so,
good.
Yes, I can come out there on the 15th as well. So,
you hang out with me in the morning, and you can hang out with Ari in the afternoon.
Exactly. Will be good stuff. Yes, I'll find some scones. Also, I'll go visit the GOP booth as well while we're out there. So we'll have a lot of fun out at the fair. I love the Washington State Fair. And before I forget, your chance to visit us for free at the Washington State Fair and not have to buy entry tickets today. We are giving away a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Daniel's Broiler has been a Seattle favorite since 1980. Features USDA prime steak and other specialties, including chicken and fresh seafood, as well as a selection of high-end spirits, wine, and cocktails. Daniel's Broiler is open now in Bellevue, downtown Seattle, Leschi, and South Lake Union. With dine-in, takeout, and delivery, check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout, delivery order, and more. We're also giving away a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs. Learn how to design your retirement to support your quality of life for 30-plus years from Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, a local company working to help you grow deep financial roots that future financial storms don't blow your life savings away. Visit madronafinancial.com for more information and discover how you can create a rooted wealth plan today. Last but certainly not least, we are giving away 4 tickets to the Washington State Fair, which is celebrating its 125th anniversary. Get your tickets now at thefair.com. That's thefair.com. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes is be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10 wins a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, and 4 tickets to Washington State Fair. Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call for your chance to win at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Well, that's going to do it for us today, my friends. But fear not. We'll be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and, of course, more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.